Angel's Punishment is an Indie Switch Exclusive Metroidvania game. You take control of an angel that has a vision of disaster, but their powers are taken away, so they have to take matters into their own hands. If you follow my Twitch, chances are you've watched at least some of this game. Any Google search will lead you nowhere. Nobody knows this game, only a very handful of people apparently have played this. Maybe because it came out this September, or because the price is $25. I understand hearing a price like that and looking at a game like this will make people shriek at the thought of wasting their money on something that might not be worth their time. I understand that, which is why I'm here to tell you why you should buy this game. If not at full price, then during sales, which it drops to just $2. Before we start, I must confess, the footage of the game is being recorded with an emulator. I currently only own a Switch Lite and can't record the footage with the actual hardware. I know some people hate that, especially when it's an indie game, which I agree, please do support creators and do not emulate indie games like this. However, this was my only way to record the game, and I have legally paid for it on my Switch. With that out of the way, the game starts simple and straightforward. You're brought to a castle and start making your way through it. It doesn't have a huge cast of enemies, but it's diverse enough for each area to feel fresh, as each enemy is introduced slowly. When you first enter, you're introduced to slow, weak zombies that don't attack and just wander around. Next room, you face skeletons with swords. Soon after, the knights that attack completely different, and dragons that swoop down and hit you, and mongrels that pounce at the sight of you. In the depths of the entrance, you find wizards with ranged attacks, causing you to approach more carefully. Once you reach the torture chambers, flaming skulls charge at you, taking you by surprise at the sight of a new enemy, and ogres block your attacks, making you rethink your strategies. Entering the caves, you encounter spirits shooting projectiles directly at you. Reaching the heights of the castle at the summit, you encounter knights with shields, cleverly defending from your attacks, requiring you to think exactly when to attack. Those are all the enemies in the game. They're all relatively easy, but the groups you encounter are never the same, causing you to always use different strategies. What will work in one room wouldn't work in the next. Not only the enemies, but also the environment. Platforms can make easy groups more difficult to deal with. Spitting blades that will catch you if you stop to catch a breath. Spikes that will stop you from dodging backwards, requiring you to find other defensive methods. Gas pumps requiring you to be really careful with your steps. Not one room looks the same, and I can remember from the top of my head where I can encounter these groups and the layout of the room. Exploration is the key element, and this game does a good job making areas so distinct that it won't be hard to backtrack. Not only that, but the game has a few power-ups that make exploring previous areas fun. Firstly, the weapons can open doors. I'll talk about them as weapons soon, but for now I want to focus on the aspect that the devs made them keys. Certain doors are marked red, blue, and green, and are required a respective weapon to open them. The game doesn't tell you this, but it's very rewarding to realize that to open the red door, all you have to do is smack it with an axe. Once you get the spear and see that it's green, your first thought is to go back to the green door. It also has doors that open with talismans, red, blue, green, and purple. You acquire these talismans one half at a time by completing puzzles and defeating bosses. The puzzles are creative. The first one demands you to pay attention to the scenery, banners that you wouldn't even notice. Not only that, but it feeds you cold leads, requiring you to think outside the box and either solve it alone or by looking harder for the solution you missed. The second puzzle requires you to go through the torture chambers looking for these discs to place them in the right direction. You naturally encounter the discs first, and your first instinct is to either point them to where the ladder is or where the ladder directs: north, south, west, east. Once you find the final piece, you realize you're supposed to complete a symbol, and due to their placement in more unique rooms, you easily find your way to them. Not to count, you have a fast travel, angel statues that lets you, as you've guessed, fast travel through the castle. The third and final puzzle has you trying to crack how to light all these torches at the same time, which sadly is too easy since to interact with the torches is the same button as to dodge, so you immediately realize how to solve it. Some areas are impossible to reach, requiring the previously mentioned power-ups. The first is a dash, the second is climb walls, the third is temporary invincibility, and the last is gliding. I'll soon talk about these in combat, but what I find the most important thing in any Metroidvania is how power-ups matter in both combat and exploration. The second boss can only be reached with a dash, and the deep parts of the torture chambers can only be reached by climbing. And the invincibility not only allows you to bypass these spikes, but also allows you to quickly traverse between short paths without having to worry about killing every single enemy. And the glide is used to reach 2 doors only. Sadly, it has the least amount of use because it's so slow you might as well walk. The worst part about exploring is how besides the game progression items, you don't have much to find. A lot of dead ends and corners that serve no purpose. Castlevania fixed this by having secret walls and candles to break. Everything in the environment is for decoration, which isn't bad, but makes these rooms with so much stuff in them rather empty. Since you can't interact with the scenery in a rewarding way, like breaking vases for drops like gold, health, and magic, naturally you spend most of the time fighting whatever blocks your path. Even though every encounter is easily avoidable, you'll never be able to get much of anywhere without money, which you use to upgrade your weapons. Money is only found as enemy drops and red treasure in certain rooms. At your disposal you have your starting sword, which deals moderate damage and has an incredibly short range but with a fast enough rate to not be underwhelming. An axe that deals massive damage in a short range, but it's slightly slower than a sword. A spear that has a longer range but deals moderate damage and only attacks straight ahead. A throwing disc blade, a long-range projectile that deals moderate damage and boomerangs right back to you. But sadly you can only throw one at a time. All these weapons have situations appropriate for each, but I stuck with the axe more than any other, since it's a chore to switch between them, requiring you to cycle one by one rather than having a weapon wheel or equipping them on a pause menu. There are still situations that would rather use a different one, but with the damage of the axe, usually you don't have that much of a reason to switch. And you can also get through the entire game solely with the axe. You can dodge backwards by hitting A. It's a good defensive method, but it's not as smooth as Alucard's dodge in Symphony of the Night. You can dodge until the last frame of your attack is over, which more often than not can cause you to get hit, even if you're hammering A to dodge in time. It's easier to jump away from an attack rather than dodge. Not only that, but sometimes dodging can lead you to spikes or even more enemies, which is not a flaw, but it's something you have to think twice before using. Your power-ups are busted in the best way imaginable. You can push forward twice to dash, which makes you invisible during the whole thing, making it incredibly useful to dodge literally everything and even passing through enemies you don't want to fight. Enemies like the Ogre or Spear Knights can be a pain to fight face to face, and dashing through them and hit them from back feels really satisfying to pull off. The wall climbing is the least useful along with glide. They don't offer any combat advantages. Climbing might at least help you avoid ground damage. The invincibility is broken beyond belief and I love it. Not only you can completely skip every combat encounter that annoys you, you can also kill every enemy you face without ever taking damage if you use it correctly. And even better, you can kill every boss without even taking a single hit. It's insane. Some of the really tough bosses, like the Armored Lizard, can be completely broken apart by just using the invincibility and hugging him, spamming the axe, and surely, if your magic is high enough, he'll die before he runs out. You can increase your magic and health with money, along with upgrading your weapons. The weapons look more and more powerful and angelic, causing more damage. The only thing making this upgrade system not that good is the fact that you need to spend an insane amount of money to upgrade things. Chances are, you want everything maxed out. You'll need at least 84,000 gold. Enemies only drop around 10, up to maybe 50, and the value is always random, and it's even more random what they'll even drop, since they'll drop gold, magic, or health. And you have no way of knowing which they'll drop or manipulating the odds, leading to a lot of grinding. By the end of the game, I only managed to get everything to level 3. Post-game, I dared to reach level 4 with the axe on my first playthrough. After collecting every treasure and grinding like mad, the bosses are alright. They start simple and grow into really tough and high damaging bosses that pushed me to learn it well and not just rush in. And one of them being a boss rush of the weaker ones. The invincibility aside, these bosses are well telegraphed and well designed. I could always tell what their next move was and what to do in response. I honestly like their designs, reminding me of classic Castlevania, and even their movesets and design ideals. It really puts the Vania in Metroidvania, which more often than not these games lack that. It might as well just be called the Metroid genre. The most competitive parts of Metroidvanias are the soundtrack and visuals. They always full style visually and sound like gods singing into your ears. The game is quite pretty. It has a simple first game kinda look, which to me is very appealing. It's very detailed, having no shortage of unique areas and sprites fully animated without any lazy job. I'd compare it to Castlevania Bloodlines. The backgrounds are distinct, and not only between areas but between rooms. One room you're in a dampy rocky cave, and the next you're in a sewer, and earlier the same area you're in a prison, and deeper in the same area you have torture devices. Each area is diverse from each other and not too look alike. The entrance, torture chambers, caves, and summit all look very unique from each other and gives the player a great atmosphere. The entrance has this feel of high guard as you are entering a really tough and difficult to crack fortress. The torture chambers have this ominous feel of dread, that you're walking to a trap that you must gather the courage to push through. The caves have a mystic atmosphere. It feels like being in a magical dungeon. The summit feels truly angelic, as if you're at the top of the world, invading the royalty of the high count of the castle. It all feels great, and I didn't get tired of visuals, and no area overstayed its welcome. The absolute weakest part of the game is its soundtrack. Its great atmosphere of the scenery is nearly ruined by music that sounds like royalty free, which I don't judge if it is, but it sounds rather cheap and unfitting, and it's so repetitive by the time you get sick of it you'll be leaving the next area to finally hear something new, just to be sick by the end of it again. It became so unbearable that I actually disabled the music. It's unfortunate, as Metroidvanias are known for their bombastic music, and it's a major letdown that this game didn't feature amazing music, especially for the bosses. It's really anticlimactic to enter a boss room, ready for a fast-paced battle, only to hear the same music you've been hearing the entire area. Same thing for story moments, they just keep the music going. The story is sadly another shortcoming, but this time is due to not having enough details. The story is as follows. The unnamed protagonist, the Angel, asks for permission to help humanity after they have a vision of doom. The Archangels refuse, as they are not to intervene with human affairs. By ignoring the refusal, the Angel loses all their abilities, and they set off to find the source of evil in this unnamed castle. They purge the evil of the Master of the Soldiers, the Torturer, a great lizard demon, and a dark spirit. At the very summit of the castle they find the fallen angel. They rejected their angelhood to destroy humanity, as they've been using the gift of God for destruction. The angel puts an end to their schemes, and the Archangel Council recognizes that they were right, and gives them their power's gratitude. It's not a bad story. In all honesty, I was hooked. I want to know more about this castle and the bosses I was fighting, and even a bit more about the angel themselves. But nothing is revealed about anything besides the fallen angel's motives. It is conclusive, but I wish there was more to it than that. Maybe if there's ever a sequel. I love this game, in honesty. It's a small 2 to 4 hours experience that was fun to play and learn the ins and outs. It has everything that makes Metroidvanias great, and even though it was simple, it was rich in mechanics and style enough to be enjoyable. It is a rather glitchy game at times. I've had a glitch when entering torture chambers for the first time and ended up near the boss instead of the entrance to the area. The weirdest problem I've come across only happened early in the game, and it was a game-breaking glitch that hard-locked my save file and had me restart the game from scratch 3 times. Dying early in the game will crash the game and I have to restart, only to freeze when entering the castle. I have no idea why this happens, but it's something that needs to be patched. Worst of all, that seriously needs to be patched, is that if you create a new save on the second slot, it will not only overwrite your normal save, but also delete your first save slot if you restart. That sucks. In the end, it's a very fun game. I try not to spoil the whole experience, since I want people to play this game and experience it themselves. Looking this game up has no results, no fan arts, nothing. Only reviews and some gameplay videos. As it's only been out for over a month at the time of writing, maybe soon enough there will be a fanbase for this game, and maybe, just maybe, the developers will return to give more of this. Because the game has potential, it could be an even better game while still being simple and fun. We can only dream, and hope that someday it happens. Hi, thanks for watching this video. I've been teasing my friends lately about a Devil King 2 here retrospective. I ain't getting to that, I just haven't been getting around to playing these games much. It is halfway done, so it shouldn't be long till I finish it. I just really wanted to get to this one first, as it's a short and interesting topic to me, since it's a small Brazilian game no one has ever heard of, and how I can't even find any information about the developers. I tried contacting the publishers to see if I could get an interview with them for this video, but I haven't gotten a reply, and I honestly don't think they'll reply at all. I'll leave it at that, since I can't dig any deeper. I might do more videos on obscure games like this, since I absolutely love these, and usually they have some neat ideas I could learn from for my own future projects. That's all for today. Thank you for watching, don't forget to subscribe for more, follow my Twitch to see me play some games, follow my art Twitter to see my art and commissions. Thank you so much, see ya.